Now if you start to look to the left, in a few seconds you'll see the white arch, the gilded statue, usually surrounded by about 500 Japanese guests taking photos. Many of them are still at breakfast, so it's only 20. Yeah? And that is Johann Strauss monument. And if you look right behind the trees, still to the left-hand side, you can see a brownish building, and that's the Kursalon Hübner. This is where Johann Strauss used to conduct his music. He died in 1899, and he was 74 years old. What killed him was pneumonia. And on right and left-hand side of the Ring Boulevard, you can see all those old, beautiful, gorgeous buildings. Many of them had been the home of noble families or money nobility. Now we drive by left-hand side the Ritz-Carlton, so you can see what we did to those buildings. Yeah, now they are the headquarters of different banks, insurance companies, offices are here, but also partly they are lived in. Part of it is apartments. And Vienna is a city where tourism plays a very important role. So when we get around the corner and you look to the right-hand side, you can see the yellow building. That's the Hotel Imperial. Yeah? This is the one where state visitors usually stay, and you as a regular person would pay 5,400 euros for a room. If you cannot afford lunch, then you hop into the McDonald's here. Yeah? That's the Imperial McDonald's. And left-hand side, the rider on the horse is Charles of Schwarzenberg. He used to fight Napoleon successfully. Now he fights the pigeons less successfully. That's what we call bad luck, yeah? And getting around the corner, at the end of the street to your left-hand side, then you have the jet fountain. The jet fountain is a symbol for the good drinking water we have here in town. And you get also to the left-hand side a glimpse of the gigantic cupola of Saint Charles Borromeo. It's the church which is dedicated, donated to the saint of the Black Death or Black Plague. Yeah?
It's a setting, I think. You know why? Because you got the...
So when we continue left-hand side, you get a better glimpse of it, but you can also have a look to the right-hand side. There is this brownish and reddish building, yeah, and that's home of the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra. This is the one from where we broadcast the New Year's concert all over the world every year, 1st of January. And it's the home of the Vienna Philharmonics, as I said. It's the Golden Hall, and every year they choose a different conductor. Down to the left-hand side, the two pavilions, they are in Art Nouveau style or Art Deco, which is Jugendstil. One is used as a subway station, and the other one holds a coffee house. Yeah? And I mentioned it already that Vienna has the size of about 420 square kilometers, 170 square miles, and 51% of our works. And look at the flowers blooming to the left-hand side. Yeah, those are already the summer flowers. The first ones we get here in springtime, by the end of March, is the tulips. And any idea where the tulips are coming from? Turkey, that's correct, yes, yeah. The Turks tried to invade us several times, they besieged us several times, never made it into town, and when they left head over heels, they left behind the tulips and they left behind the coffee beans, yeah. And in 1683 was the birth hour of our coffee houses, yeah. And we always thought that to put in sugar and milk would be enough for good coffee. We learned it when Starbucks showed up, that you can add macadamia flavor, pistachio, cherry, so we are very flexible, yeah? Town hall, museums, they have to be placed exactly on that street. And the only date which is really important is 1861. Then they started with the architecture of the famous buildings, and the first one is the State Opera House. So as soon as we get around the corner here, you have the State Opera House. Then on your right-hand side, it's the big brownish building with the gigantic copper roof. And our State Opera House is ranking among the 5 best ones worldwide, together with the Metropolitan, the Scala in Milano, Sydney, and Covent Gardens. Now if you look to the right-hand side, you can see it, yeah? This night we have the Fashion Week, yeah, but officially it's closed down for operas and ballet, July and August. Those are the 2 months we need for cleaning, renovation, restoration. But when all the tickets are sold, you have about 1,700 people seated in there, and you have more than 500 standing room tickets. And once a year, it's turned into a gigantic ballroom. They take out the chairs, they install a steel platform, yeah, they cover the whole thing with a wooden dance floor, they double the number of boxes, and then the highlight of our carnival takes place here, called the State Opera Ball. 5,000 people waltzing in the opera house. And that reminds me of another musician. Does the name Max Steiner mean something to you? Who knows Casablanca? Who knows Gone with the Wind? Musicals, Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers. Yeah? Max Steiner, a native-born Viennese, was the composer for the music. And he lived a few blocks away from where Johann Strauss' apartment is. He emigrated to Hollywood, and there he started his world career as a musician. And another musician who came to Vienna, when you look right inside, behind the iron fence, you can see the statue of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. Mozart originally came from Salzburg, but the last 10 years of his life he spent them here in town. He got married here. 2 of his kids got baptized in St. Stephen's Cathedral, and when he died, he's buried at a tiny little cemetery here in town. He was, by the way, the only and first freelance musician we had in the 18th century. And everything from now on to the right-hand side is the old imperial winter residence. We are walking through the courtyards later on. Whereas to the left-hand side, the first building where the bus is, the Globus bus, that is the one where we keep the paintings of the old masters, Rembrandt, Rubens, Titian, Tintoretto, Raphael, and all the others. Then the lady in the middle on the throne is Maria Theresa. She was the mom of 16 children, and not only mother of 16 kids, she was still ruling the empire. So ever since then we know what emancipation means. Yeah? On the right-hand side you have the city gate, and you have an old-fashioned church. That's the Italian church of our city. And left-hand side, where the blue bus is, that's the museum where we keep the skeletons of dinosaurs and the gem collection, fossils, meteorites, and so on. And our kids love it. They call it the Museum of Stones and Bones. So if you ever hear somebody talking about it that way, you know where it is. And now there's a building coming up like a Greek temple, no wonder. That's our parliament, yeah? And it's in Greek style because originally democracy came from Greece. The architect had lived there for quite some time. The lady with the gilded helmet in front of it is the Greek goddess of wisdom, Pallas Athene. And I can tell you, each time our politicians sign a law, we really know that wisdom is outdoors, yeah? And she's not even facing the building, so what can you ask for, you know? Yeah, right hand side you have the gardens, which are the rose gardens of our city. Thousands of roses are blooming here from Wallace all over Europe, together with the one in Dresden in Germany. So now it's coming up on your right hand side, the court theater. Whereas to the left-hand side, you see some strange construction in front of a building like a church. That's our town hall. That's the city hall, seat of our Lord Mayor, who is also the governor of Vienna. And if you have a look at it, you can see a gigantic screen in front of it. Yeah? Every night time, as soon as it's dark, people come here for free, sit down, and you watch opera, operettas, ballet on that screen then. Yeah, and then on the right-hand side you have the Café Landmann. This was the most beloved one, used by Sigmund Freud. He lived a few blocks down the street from here, and every Sunday morning he would come to this coffee house here. Yeah, he would watch the people, the way they were dressed, the way they walked around, the way they were chattering, the way they were complaining about everything, you know. And then finally he decided, oh my gosh, I have to invent psychoanalysis. They all need treatment badly. So coming up already on the left-hand side is the main university building, dating back to the 19th century. Foundation date of our university had already been the year 1365. So it's the oldest German-speaking university you find, together with the one in Prague, the capital town of the Czech Republic. And if we would go continuously straight on the Ring Boulevard, we would come back to the Danube Canal, yeah? So to the former part of the Danube. And down this way, towards the Danube Canal, you would also see a lot of very modern or post-war buildings. It was the last 6 months of the Second World War that Vienna was hit by the bombing of the Allied to get the German Wehrmacht out of here. And the first ones to come into town was the infantry, the Soviets, yeah? And their tanks and trucks with the soldiers, and they were supported by the US and the British bombing the city to get the Wehrmacht out. Yeah? And some of the buildings on Ring Street got also damaged badly, like our Opera House, 70%, St. Stephen's Cathedral, the Ferris wheel, and so on. Yeah? And later on, when the war had come to an end in 1945, the Allies stayed here and they divided the country 4 sectors or zones. Yeah? And the same happened to Vienna. It was a split-up town. And getting around the corner, you're going to face a church, 19th century, the Gothic style again, now to the left-hand side and then in front of you, and that's the so-called Thanksgiving. The life of Emperor Franz Joseph, a not very nice guy, tried to stab him, but fortunately he survived, and his brother Maximilian collected the money for that church to be built. And way up on top of it we can see 2 crowns. Yeah? One is the crown of Mexico and the other one is the one of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So we know definitely the historic background. Both members of the Habsburg family were involved. And the younger brother Maximilian was the less fortunate one. He was the one who was then Emperor of Mexico, and he got executed there, days of Mexican Revolution. And you're also facing the Hotel Regina. And there is a square called Roosevelt Square right in front of it. No wonder, because Hotel Regina for a certain time after the Second World War was the headquarters of the US Army. Yeah, basically Vienna had been very, very old settlement area. You know, we already find traces of Stone Age days. Then the first people settling down here were the Celtic ones or the Celts. They were followed by the Romans with a military camp called Vindobona. And then the Roman Empire fell apart, and then we had many tribes coming along the Danube, like the Huns, the Avars, and the Slavs or Slavonic ones, yeah? And they settled down here along a river which they called Vienna. And that river finally gave the city its name. They call it Wien, Vienna. Du kannst die Kollegen nicht mal sagen, bis vorhin sollen, sie machen es nicht. Das ist unglaublich. Mir nervt es schon so, Report Guide zu sein. Ja. Das geht mir voll auf den Hammer. Ja. Das geht mir voll auf den Nerv. Also jetzt haben wir noch 3 Wochen, also 3 Wochen first ones being the founders of St. Stephen's Cathedral in 1137. 1137 they founded St. Stephen's Cathedral, and they called the territory here, the territory in the east, they called it Osterreich. And out of this name, finally our country's name, Österreich, Austria, got born. As we speak German, we call it Österreich. You in English call it Austria. Yeah? And then the family in the male line died out, and the Habsburgs took over, and they stayed for 640 years. 1918 was the end of the First World War. Austria was changed from a monarchy into a republic. First Republic had to fight many problems, an extremely high rate of unemployment, no medical treatment, and it was a horrible situation for the people living here, you know, so no wonder fascism could grow here. 1934 we had a civil war. 1938 the annex took place, and then there was the 7 years of the Second World War following. And March 45 finally the war came to an end. I mentioned that the Allies arrived here, divided the country, divided the city, and that situation lasted for 10 years. And 1955, the Austrian State Treaty got signed. And that treaty gave our country back its freedom and permanent neutrality. And so now when you come to Austria, you're in the Second Republic of Austria, and it's together with Switzerland, the two neutral countries in the heart of Europe. And ever since 1994, we are a member country of the European Union. So that's why our currency we use now is the euro. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we have Sunday, so that means all the regular stores are closed today. Yeah? That's the important thing. But my dear husbands, don't smile too early. Yeah? The souvenir stores, the coffee houses, the restaurants, they are all open. So we still find a chance to spend some money to support the Austrian economy. Yeah? And by the way, Vienna is an extremely safe city. So people are not coming up to grab your necklace or your watch. But when it comes to a crowded location, please be aware not to carry your handbags open widely and the wallet on top of it. That's simply an invitation to change owners. Yeah? I always tell my guests we are only born with two hands. If you find a third one in your handbag, it's definitely not yours. Yeah? Please keep that in mind. Yeah. Yeah, now it's slowly but surely time to make up your mind point. Marietta is pointing out at 11:45, after we had our free time in the city center, you can leave belongings on the bus. Sasha is going to stay with it the whole time, and then we are going to meet him, and he's going to take us back to the ship, and then you have the time for lunch, and by 2 o'clock is departure time for Schönbrunn Palace. On the right-hand side, that big white building here with the gigantic lions, by the way, this is the Palace of Justice. Yeah? So it's our Supreme Court. And if you would also be so kind as slowly but surely get your quiet boxes ready. They should be tuned in, the color should be red, and later on, if it does not work, you just come up to see me again and we retune it. anymore, so we don't care too much about that, yeah. And then later on, those blocks are going to be gone, and they can move all over wherever we need them. Then you have the high steeple of our town hall, yeah. And then you can see a rider on the horse, and this is Archduke Charles. And Charles was the first guy who ever had a victory over Napoleon, yeah. And he was riding in front of his troops, swinging and flaming the flag like that. And when he was asked how he's been so brave to do that, his answer was, when I was thinking about it, I haven't been brave at all. I just turned up the horse. You get the idea. Who are the winners of battles in Austria? It's the horses, yeah, and not the uniforms, yeah. And straight ahead of us, down to the left-hand side, you get once again a glimpse of the Italian church. And there is a